Yes, good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. We're here to look ahead to tomorrow's game at Fir Park against Motherwell. But first of all, we'll start with the big news today that Reo Hatate has signed a new 5-year contract at Celtic. This is excellent news for us. We know that Hatate's an excellent player, and I think through the summer he was one that, as the summer dragged on and we extended the likes of Kyogo, Maeda, we started to maybe get a wee bit worried that Hatate was looking elsewhere. There was a couple of quotes in the media as well, if you remember, throughout the summer, maybe about going to a higher level in the future, which I think we all know that he can do and he will do at some stage. But I think getting the security of this 5-year contract is a huge boost for us. The transfer window is closed now. Hopefully this can really stabilise him, and he can just focus on his football, get back in the team, and get back to his top form. It wasn't like there was huge rumours or he was on the verge of an exit in the summer, but you didn't want the contract talks to rumble on for too long. I think they did obviously take much longer than likes of Kyogo and Maeda, who renewed quite quickly in the summer. But it's good to get Hatate tied down. He's a key player for us. I think he's a player that's got a lot more development in him at Celtic before he moves on. I think obviously if he does find that top form and really develop as a player, there's no doubt there will be suitors, but you've got to think about the club's position in terms of trying to get the maximum they can for him if some point down the line the clubs do come in for him. That's the way the club's model works. I know as fans we would never sell key players, we would never sell our top players, but the reality of it is if Hatate performs at a high level, as he has done since he arrived at the club, no doubt teams will be tracking him, they'll be watching him, and if they do ever come calling, Celtic have got to be in a position where they're protected in terms of what they view as their asset. So it's brilliant news for him, brilliant news for the club, and as I say, hopefully he can just knuckle down now and get back to the football. I think he's a massive player for us. Since the start of the season with Brendan Rodgers, he was out of the team at first, and then he had that injury that he picked up at Pittodrie. Back in the team in the last couple of weeks, got a goal for the penalty spot last week. Hopefully now he can just settle down, focus on his football, and be a real asset on the pitch for us throughout this season. He's one, I think, under Brendan Rodgers, who, as I say, can still improve, can still develop, and he's a brilliant player, a great player to watch. I get so much joy for watching him week in and week out. I certainly did throughout the last 2 seasons. So hopefully we can see more of the same under Brendan Rodgers this campaign. Okay, so we go to Fir Park tomorrow. In terms of Motherwell, I think they've started the season really well. You can see going along the bottom of your screen now, they have had 2 1-0 defeats in their last 2 outings. And I don't think they've went scoreless in 3 for a good few years, maybe back to 2020. I think Stuart Kettlewell deserves credit. He's done a really good job there. I watched them at Tynecastle and I seen highlights of the game at Ibrox last week, and I've been really impressed with the style that they play in. It's not often in this league that a team plays good attacking progressive football and likes to pass the ball. There's so many excuses for teams further down the league to be more aggressive, to play more direct, but I don't think Motherwell will fall into that category from what I've seen of them this season. I think it should be a good game tomorrow. There's no doubt it'll be a tough test for us. They'd certainly push Rangers all the way at Ibrox last weekend, and I know Rangers aren't in great shape, but as I say, from what I've seen of Motherwell this season so far, I've been impressed by them, so it will be a tough game for us. But I think last weekend we saw a really good performance for Celtic, down to 10 men, still controlling the game, tactically very good in that 4-3-2 shape once we lost Joe Hart to the red card. And I think hopefully now we're starting to see the developments under Brendan Rodgers. It's starting to become a wee bit more like his team. There was a lot of talk at the start of the season about the tactical tweaks and the changes and the differences in style between him and Postecoglou. Hopefully now we can really settle down and the team are familiar with what he wants them to do, and we can really hit our stride now and pick up speed. I think we've found that rhythm, and it'd be good to see us kick on, but tomorrow's a big game that we have to go and win, and it gives us another opportunity playing first to put the pressure on Rangers, who already trail us by 4 points. They play at Ibrox tomorrow against Aberdeen, which historically can sometimes be a tricky fixture for them given the rivalry between the teams. Aberdeen, a wee upturn in performances and results recently as well, so we've got to take care of business in the early kick-off, but as I say, we'll need to be in top form to do that against a really decent Motherwell team. Right, so let's get into the team then, and we'll start in goals. And for this week, it won't be Joe Hart. I think Scott Bain is going to get the nod. He came off the bench last week. I know Siegrist wasn't an option from the bench after his red card. I think Bain is going to be Brendan Rodgers' preferred choice in terms of backup goalkeeper. We saw that Scott Bain played quite a bit in Brendan Rodgers' first spell whenever there was the opportunity for him. And I think he prefers Bain because of his ability with the ball at his feet. Now, I know that the jury might be out on that for us, but he's probably more comfortable with the ball at his feet than Benjamin Siegrist. I know a lot of you would like to see Siegrist get the nod. I think we've just got to navigate through these games without Joe Hart and get him back in the starting lineup. But I think Bain, he made a couple of decent saves, nothing too spectacular last week. He did have that one big lapse though, where he dwelled on the ball for far too long and Newbley got in and tried to chip him. Really should have scored after dispossessing him, so we can't have any lapses like that tomorrow. Looking for a good performance for Bain, and as a backup goalkeeper, this is your opportunity to put good performances in and try and get in the manager's thoughts. I know that for us, there's absolutely no chance that Scott Bain is ever going to displace Joe Hart and become number one, but as a backup goalkeeper, you've got to step up and put performances in when the number one is injured or suspended, and it's rare that Scott Bain gets an opportunity, so he's got to focus on putting in a top performance tomorrow. Back four, I think will be unchanged from last weekend. I think Johnson will play at right back. I think it will be Lagerbielke and Scales at centre half and Greg Taylor at left back. I thought last weekend at Livingston was Greg Taylor's best performance of the season. It was really, really good. He's always good on those surfaces, I think. He's got the experience of playing there so often when he was at Kilmarnock, but I think when the game becomes physical on a surface like that, Greg Taylor's really good. He always stands up, and I think some of his passing was really, really good. He played the key pass in the lead up to that penalty for Hatate, and I thought he was brilliant all afternoon, and I think encouraging for us that he maybe is coming into the middle of the pitch a wee bit more than he was at the start of the season. I think he'll find comfort in that. I think it helps the team, and hopefully Brendan Rodgers can see the ability that he has when he goes into that area of the pitch in the build-up, because I think we all seen under Ange that is a key strength for him, and if he can put in more performances like last week, that will stand us in good stead, because I think he's another one at the start of the season that maybe looked a wee bit unsure with the transition for Postecoglou to Rodgers. But he looked a lot more settled last week, and I thought he was excellent. The big question at centre half is Phillips or Lagerbielke or Scales. Again, Phillips having rolled his ankle a couple of weeks ago. We're in the exact same position as we were before the Feyenoord game. Do we put Nat Phillips in and give him time to play alongside Scales with a view to playing there against Lazio on Wednesday? Lagerbielke is suspended. Carter Vickers and Nawrocki are still out. So if Phillips isn't going to play on Wednesday night against Lazio, the only option seems like Scales and Iwata. Now, that would give you nightmares going into a Champions League tie, group stage tie against a top side with Scales and Iwata at centre half. So maybe tomorrow is the chance for Phillips to try and get some time, but I just don't see it. Brendan Rodgers seemed like he was only hopeful he would be available today. And I think you don't want to aggravate any injury that he's recovering from, because you might need him. Like, under any circumstances, you probably need him to start on Wednesday. So if it does come a wee bit too soon for him, I just think Lagerbielke will get the nod. Right, into midfield, Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly, who was excellent last week. I thought he was man of the match. I think he's one who's thriving under Brendan Rodgers. He looks a lot more like the Matt O'Reilly who joined back in January last year. So much ability. We know that he maybe lacks a bit of pace in his game, but his technical ability is superb. And I think he really stood out in that second half last week. He obviously arrives late to get the second goal, which comes at a vital time in the game, but just throughout that second half, I thought he got on the ball. His dribbling ability to go past players was excellent. He was really calm on it. He receives it really well. He's a really technically top quality footballer, Matt O'Reilly. Really enjoying watching him at the minute. I think Hatate, having signed his new deal, will be in beside him. That is the strongest midfield. I went with a wild card start for Paulo Bernardo last week. It didn't materialise. He didn't even get any minutes off the bench. I think that's obviously the strongest midfield that we can play. And like I say, hopefully with the contract, Hatate can become a wee bit more settled, and we can see close to top form from those three. They're going to need it, certainly in those European games, we know that. But even domestically, having those three somewhere close to top form can make this Celtic team unstoppable. Right hand side, I just feel like James Forrest is going to get the nod again because he gets the first start for months. First start since Ibrox, I think it was, for him at Livingston last week, and then Joe Hart gets sent off and he's the man that gets sacrificed to bring Scott Bain on. So I feel like Brendan Rodgers might see fit to keep him in there. There was obviously a reason he started him at Livingston last week, and it was unfortunate from his point of view for him to come off after 25-30 minutes, having not had many chances to start. So I think Forrest might keep his place. Maeda will be on the left hand side and Kyogo through the middle. Maeda, brilliant last weekend. I know he missed those two great chances, but then he smashes one in the last minute on his weaker foot for the edge of the box. Quite typical, really. But the work rate, the ground he covers, the speed he can run at for 90 minutes, he never really seems to get any slower, regardless of how much running that he does. And obviously last week he had to do the running for two men, basically, because him and Kyogo were up there alone and were a man down. I thought he was really, really good. Kyogo was brilliant as well. I thought we went down to 10 men and he goes and plays in that sort of wide attacker in the 4-3-2. He plays in a wide attacking position. Created so many good chances. He creates that one from Maeda. It leads to O'Reilly's goal. He creates another glorious chance from Maeda. It was the kind of ball that if Kyogo Furuhashi was running onto it, it'd be a certain goal. So it's just a shame that he can't set himself up. But I thought he was really, really good. And you can see in the banner at the bottom of your screen, no one has scored more goals or created more big chances in the Scottish Premiership this season so far than Kyogo. He is the top player in the league. He's playing like it. And hopefully tomorrow he can get himself back on the score sheet after sacrificing himself for the team last week and putting in an excellent performance in terms of creating chances. There you go. That's the lineup I think Brendan Rodgers will go with tomorrow at Fir Park. As I say, looking forward to the game. I think it should be good against a Motherwell team that are playing well so far this season. Like the video, let me know what you think in the comments box below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you tomorrow outside Fir Park with the full-time reaction. Thank you.